Hello everyone and welcome to another SC2 video. For this one we continue the Bot Gauntlet series, a series where we look at the ladder from Season 1 of SC2 AI Arena, and we do a Gauntlet style tournament, which means the bottom bot plays the second from the bottom and the winner goes on to face the third from the bottom, and so on all the way up the ladder. Gives us a nice little perspective of all the different bots from the low end all the way up. Last we left off, we were on Queenbot, who had just defeated... Ooh, who was it? I don't even remember. Probably Biobot. And next up, we are going to skip the house bot, which is nice to have on the ladder, but you know, not a genuine unique bot from a unique author sort of idea. So we're going to skip one base turtle and go on to face Bombshaker. So Queenbot will be defending its reign versus Bombshaker, who is actually the first bot on the ladder to go Mass Raven. It was not my own bot. I kind of thought it wouldn't work well, because in my head I'm thinking, okay, bots can just always move out of range of the auto turret and wait for it to expire. But Bombshaker used it to pretty good success. I'm like, oh, okay, that's actually a good idea. So yeah, we'll see how it works out here. One of the nice things with auto turrets is that as soon as you place them, you can start focus firing the best target, something that a human cannot do. So it does have some advantages in the bot world as well. So Bombshaker, let's see, we got some information here, biography. Named by my 4-year-old son, a very basic bot that is going to require a lot of development. Bot is based off of Ketrock's Mass Raven build. Okay, well, he inspired me and then... Sorry, I inspired him and then he inspired me. Human Ketrock inspired Bombshaker, who inspired bot Ketrock. This was made by ToeJam, and it is built in Python. So I guess what we can do is hop into the match now, which I already have loaded. And here we go. Spawning in the top left, we have the red Zerg, the returning bot. It is Queenbot. Meanwhile, in the bottom right, we have the challenger. It is Bombshaker, who's actually using changing the rally point on structures. Rally points in the bot world are often just ignored, because as soon as a SCV pops out of a structure, you can immediately start giving it orders. So it's not necessary to give it rally points, but this is kind of interesting. Doesn't seem like there's that much. Seems very random too. It is clicking on... No, it's clicking on mineral patches that require another SCV. No, but I clicked on this one. Hard to say what the logic is there. Maybe it's just random. Maybe it's just constantly changing the random mineral patches to try to get them spread out well. Anyways, Queenbot we have seen before. This music's a little bit loud, isn't it? At least it is for me. Sound. Okay, that should do it. Yeah, so once again, Queenbot is a bot that was built mostly as like an example of using a bit of a framework written by Rasper, which handles a lot of the Queen stuff for you. Injects, transfuses, creep spread, that sort of idea. And he put it into a bot, and then since then he's kind of updated the bot a little bit to make it a little more competitive. But for the most part, it's just an example bot that was actually quite strong for a while until people adjusted their bots to handle it. Because Queen's a transfuse is quite good, and you know, creep spread gets out of hand when you're going Mass Queen. You don't have to worry about larva so much. It's pretty cool. Bombshaker, I believe, plays with Hellions as his mineral sink, so it's going to be a lot of Hellion and auto turret. And already I can imagine this is going to be... Let's get this out of the way, actually. You can already see the names. I imagine this is going to be a long game. Both of these bots kind of play the more macro game, and I'm not quite sure how Hellions and auto turrets versus Queens will work out. Like, Hellions don't seem to be a good choice versus Queens, as they don't get that bonus to light. And auto turrets are free, and that can get out of hand if you get your Raven count really high, but at the same time, if you don't get it really high, it'll just kind of eat into transfuse energy and kill nothing. So, I'm not sure how many kills you would actually get from that. Planetary Fortresses on the way. Orbital is quite a bit late, I would guess, but I guess if you're going Mass Raven, it's not the end of the world to have a late orbital. I mean, I go Mass Raven, I only get one orbital, because I do this, which a lot of people don't suggest, and it still kind of works out. So if you can live off of one orbital, maybe you can live off of 0 orbitals too. But as I say that, the orbital does actually come down now. Looks like we got an SCV scouting all the bases around the map. Meanwhile, he's got a little shadow in the form of a drone following him around. Creep spread has already begun. Bring up the units tab, we can see the queen count is up to 4. And we got 1 spine at the natural. Nice little safety spine, which is... This would probably like double the win rate of Queenbot. Just the ability to survive some of those cheesy builds. A couple of queens in a spine can be quite powerful. A couple of queens on their own can be quite dead. Spine is also a much better source to put transfuse into than a queen. Meanwhile, we do have the first starport coming down. Factory is building a siege tank, which I didn't know Bombshaker used. Nice little defensive setup. We got a missile turret in each mineral line. A few marines at home. And tech lab going on that starport. Meanwhile, the queen count is up to 9. No sign of a third base yet for Bombshaker. Queenbot continuing its creep spread. Spreading those existing tumors while still adding more. Can't quite get high ground vision yet to spread up there. Maybe not the best map for creep spread. I can see with all these vision blockers and terrain changes, it could be difficult for him to get the spread going ridiculously fast. But with this bot, you know, if things are going well, eventually the entire map will turn purple. First Raven has arrived. Do we have no music at all now? What's happening? Maybe I went too low. One tumor is going to get that high ground vision. Same goes over here. I wonder if there's actually a specific code to try to put a tumor on the edge of your vision. There probably is. You know, you try to spread as far as you can where there's still creep, and if you do that, you're never going to end up putting it on the edge of your vision when your vision is blocked by, you know, when you can't see creep beyond a high ground blocker. Yeah, fresh tumors in all directions now. This is going to be one purple map. We do have 2 bases, however, going down for Bombshaker now. It's been on full gas for quite a while, which gets you a nice initial burst of Ravens, but then you can't really keep the production going at a high rate. You need to get those 3rd and 4th bases early. Which is, as a human player, why I prefer not really rushing my starport or rushing my gas intake, but more putting my resources towards getting expansions. If I can rush up to 4 bases very quickly, and then take all my gas, and then build my starports, then I get that 8 gas production going at the earliest possible time, which is the real bottleneck to getting Mass Raven. Which one do I want to build? So we got the 6th, the 7th, the 8th, and the 9th. I said that wrong, but the 8th refinery going down, and that will double the gas intake very soon. Meanwhile, however, we do have the creep pushing right up on the front door. We bring up the units tab, we can see that there's 3 tanks, a Hellion, and 4 Ravens now for Bombshaker, and Queenbot is up to 25 queens. With upgrades on the way as well. And Nidus Worm. Nidus Network, I mean. Although, you don't really need the Nidus Network to allow the queens to walk somewhere that they couldn't otherwise, because basically the entire map is purple right now. Yeah, so that spread as far as you can see thing works for ramps really well, to get a tumor on the ramp to give you high ground vision. However, for something like this, it doesn't work as well. Got the vision blocker here, but if these guys hang out in the area, this will spread across, and nope, lost that vision point. There's a macro hatch. Doesn't matter too much though, it's already getting swallowed up from every other side, even a high ground one going across, and as soon as this finishes, that will be able to spread again. Creep tumor, or Nidus does go up in the main base. And here is the first attack of the game. Bombshaker trying to hold with Disc Marines, and Hellions obviously not going to do too well. The auto turrets are going to do a lot of damage to queens, however. A lot of transfuses going down. The Ravens will be able to deal with these creep tumors. However, the auto turrets are more focused on killing the queens, which is probably the right choice. And yes, that is held. Every queen is down. The Marines and Hellions died. However, I suspect that the Ravens mostly just got injured and didn't actually perish. Wasn't enough auto turret power left over to kill the Nidus Worm, however, so another queen got in. And I think another Nidus will even finish. Ooh, no, it will not. However, while that was going on, massive attack at the 3rd base of Bombshaker. Queens looks like they're able to focus fire SCVs when they're in range, so it's not going to be like infinite repair on a planetary. So many queens. And killing the SCVs is really important because queens don't do a lot of damage to planetary fortresses, especially if they got the 5 armor, which they do. So that makes repair extremely strong if the damage is coming in slowly. But if the repair doesn't exist, then the slow damage will eventually mean a slowly dead planetary fortress. A lot of SCVs actually coming over here to repair, and a lot of them going to the death. Almost vacating his other bases to try to get that repair in. Queens are now within the main base, and this is looking devastating once again for Queenbot. We do have a planetary and 2 siege tanks here though. This will hold up fairly well, especially with queens throwing in, or with ravens throwing in the odd auto turret. Although I did see a raven go down there. Every raven death is going to be massive, especially when Bombshaker's on a tiny economy. I could see a 2-base Bombshaker winning this despite what the map looks like if the raven count gets out of control. If he gets to like 30-40 ravens, I feel like it's just, he doesn't even need the income anymore at that point. Just slow push your way through all this massive queens. Queens have decided to pull back. 3rd base remains up for Bombshaker. I'm not sure where his worker count is at. Very low. Because he's got no mineral intake besides his mule. He's got 1 SCV, but it's going to prefer to mine gas when he needs minerals. These are scenarios you don't really plan for when you're coding it. But the mules will continue to come down, and mules will eventually give him enough resources for another SCV like this one. Feels like the SCV's priority is repairing things right now, which isn't great because he doesn't really have much minerals to repair. He doesn't have that much gas either, actually. So another Nidus Worm breaking in. Main base is now turning quite purple. Do have some old creep tumors that survive, no fresh ones to spread, however. And this could be the end of the third base. This could be the end of the last 3 SCVs that we know of. Bring up the units tab, but we can see, yes, no SCVs remaining. There are still the ability to make mules, but not for long, as that orbital is going for a trip. Third base bites the dust. We do have 2-2 upgrades done and 3-3 on the way for these queens. Creep is spreading well through the main base of Bombshaker, and I think at this point, let's just go ahead and speed this up, as it might be a slow finish with queens. Did get the floating command center, which is nice. This is a fortified position, but again, with no repair, every single shot is a permanent damage, and that with one siege tank going down, there goes a lot of the defense. I'm more interested now to see if the creep actually reaches every nook and cranny of this map. Did get this filled in eventually. Looks like the third base of Bombshaker might not get all the creep. Creep tumors are invading the natural base though. The main base is completely gooped up now. No natural ground remaining. And with that, final depot is going down. And we will call it a success for Bombshaker, as he was able to keep this spot from turning purple. GG Bombshaker. Didn't quite get into the game you wanted to do, but you know, nice hold on the first attack. And yeah, just couldn't get to that Raven count. I didn't think that this would work well versus Mass Queen. But if it were going to work well, it would require a massive Raven count, and unfortunately that was not what happened this game. Let's jump out of this one. And I believe that puts Queenbot on a 2-game win streak. Oh, what's happening here? Not a good time for the website to go down if it did. Okay, good. We're in good shape. I don't think the website's been having issues for quite a while, so that would have been unlikely. Yeah, so Queenbot is victorious, taking out Bombshaker. Next up will be Skevedbot P by Squid. By the P on the end, I'm guessing there is possibly is or plans for other race bots. Let's see what we got here. This is made by Squid in Python, the most popular language to write bots in. And the one downside of Python was its performance. It couldn't perform as well as, you know, Go and C++ and C# and Java. But having upgraded to Python 3.9 on AI Arena recently, Python has had a massive performance increase. I'm not sure why, but the bots have gone a lot quicker, which is nice. It means you have more, you don't have to worry about performance so much and can do more complex computations to make your bot stronger. Also, if your bot can play at a certain performance level, it makes it able to play in real time, which means we can put it up against human players, which is pretty cool as well. Anyways, we got a biography here from Squid that says, I played a lot back in Wings of Liberty, and my favorite build was 4-gate. So here is a straightforward 4-gate build from back in the day. Note this is my first ever coded bot, first time using Python. using JavaScript in my work, but not that proficient. Really enjoy this. Yeah. So JavaScript is available if you want to build bots in Node.js. However, I don't believe the framework is as developed as something like Python, which does a lot of the heavy lifting for you. Yeah, so let's go ahead and hop into this one. Probably should have had it loading in the background while I was doing all this chatting. All right, so this will be on Lightshade, AI edition. And we'll just swap the scene over here and we'll hop right into it. So spawning in the top left, we have the returning champ Queenbot going for its 3rd straight win. Meanwhile, in the bottom right, Skevedbot P, who's going for apparently a 4-gate, which I would imagine would beat a mass queen opener. Because this isn't even like a super defensive queen opener. Like, yeah, he got a spine crawler last time, but it was still kind of like 3 hatcheries and 3 queens. It was what he ended up with, which isn't that much early on. There is no panic zerglings in this bot. This bot is queens and only queens. Living the mono battle dream. But it all depends how well executed this 4-bot is. This 4-gate is. Both gas being taken. Probe going out to scout, I guess? Or it could be to set up the proxy pylon to warp in from, although it's a little early to be doing that. You kind of want to set up the proxy pylon and build a gateway at that pylon. And you want that to finish around the time warp gate finishes, so it's still far too early for that, and it looks like it's just going to be a scout. You want the gateway next to the proxy pylon so you get the fast warp-ins. That is something that perhaps Skevid doesn't know, as he used to play a lot back in Wings of Liberty. And in Wings of Liberty, there was no such thing as slow warp-ins. You can fast warp-in anywhere. They wanted to add more of a defensive advantage versus gateway units, especially in PvP. And in doing so, they made it a little bit more difficult to get the fast offensive warp-ins. Okay, so there goes a pylon at the proxy location. And it looks like there is some proxy defense built into this bot. It will not build zerglings, but it can build drones. So drones are going to work away on this pylon. And this could give a fighting chance for Queenbot. It looks like this pylon was actually important for his supply, although another pylon just finished at home. Cybercore is done, and the warp gate attack has started to begin. That drone that's chasing the probe did chase him to its own death, however, the proxy pylon is down. Drone's going back to work at the natural. Spine crawler going up. Now, economically, that was actually a advantage for Skevid, as losing, like, even if he didn't cancel and he lost 100 minerals, I think that cost Queenbot more than 100 minerals worth of mining time. So this could still end up quite well for Skevid. Now, he doesn't have the option for an offensive warp in, but he is still building the 4th gate. He's building it at home. So it's just going to be long distance warp ins, but the army size should still be the same. So the attack will more or less be exactly the same minus 4 units, because 4 units rather than being in the fight will be walking across the map instead. Single sentry, I'm going to guess this is for Guardian Shield. Force field is something very difficult to place correctly. Anything involving terrain is very difficult for a scripted bot, or a machine learning bot for that matter. But actually actually people don't make hallucinations in the human world, but hallucinating an Archon and just having it tank a bunch of damage is actually a decent use for a sentry. The warp gate is complete. The first warp in of 4 stalkers is done. A lot of resources in the bank. Looks like you can afford a couple more warp ins. And with that warping, he's going to be moving across the map. So we do have a sentry, a zealot, and 8 stalkers heading out. Meanwhile, across the map, if we bring up the units tab, we're up to 6 queens and a spinecrawler at the natural. Now these queens are pretty low on energy. Maybe 3 transfuses will be available, but they've been spending a lot of their energy on these creep tumors. Queens will start the engagement, one fighting on its own to begin with. However, I think it will get saved. Yeah, it will get saved. Unfortunately, it's kind of wasting a bunch of transfuses as the damage going back. There's like 3 transfuses just to kill a single zealot. Guardian Shield is actually important versus queens. And yeah, this seems like it's going to be way too much for queens to be able to handle. A little bit of cutting backwards means that this damage is getting spread out over all the different stalkers, who are mostly just taking shield damage, which will regen back. There was maybe a long-term option to win, like as the mineral patches start disappearing, but the fight had to be going like at least close to even for a while. It just doesn't appear that Skevedbot was losing anything. And I imagine with this, it's going to be game over. 20 stalkers now on the field, which is the unit of choice versus queens. The zealots aren't bad either. Queens can only kite them so well. In the bot world, there's a lot of situations where slow zealots will never even get to attack because of perfect kiting of bots. But queens is not one of them. They have a long attack animation, so even if they're on creep, you're gonna get hits in with the zealot. Doesn't look like we have any drones at the 3rd base or 4th base of Queenbot, and I believe it is safe to speed this up now. Now with bots, anything can happen. One bot can crash. One bot can not know how to find this hidden base and end up losing the game 20 minutes later because it gets stuck in the main base just sitting here. And when we're talking about newer-ish bots, these are things that are likely to happen because yeah, we can already see. Okay, he's found something. Yeah, you kind of want to get the basics down with your bot, you know, producing units, you know, creating production, expanding. And the more, like, edge case stuff always comes later. So finding a hidden base is not something that's at the top of your to-do list when you first start building your bot, although it's somewhat near the top. The first time you kill your opponent and realize you can't finish the game and it ends in a draw, you realize, maybe I should have some code to go hunting for bases. Anyways, congrats to Skevin. That was a fairly good 4-gate and a nice adaptation to losing the proxy pylon. And taking out the champ. So Queenbot's reign has ended, but we'll see more from Rasper as he does have a tremendous bot later on called Spiny, who is actually in the current ladder season been surpassed by his newest incarnation called Eris, which is a kind of a rewrite of his Zerg bot Spiny. And is doing quite well in the current Pro Bots tournament. There will be a link to that in the description. It's actually the previous 4 seasons champions are now the final 4 in the winners bracket, being Micro Machine, myself, Tyr, and Eris, aka Spiny. You know, we'll give him that. It's not the same bot, but Spiny was a previous champion, and his author now has his newest Zerg bot in the final top 4. There is still a lower bracket though, and we do have some powerhouses down there. Sharpened Edge, Veteran, Sharkbot. Yep. So probably the closest term we've had in a long time. For a long time, there was like Micro Machine, who is so far beyond anyone else, and then a core of a few bots who are all very strong, and then like the leftovers, you know, the ones who aren't going to get very far. But now like that core of solid bots has gotten bigger and bigger to the point where every bot in the tournament is in that core. And a lot of them have really closed the gap with Micro Machine. Micro Machine still being the clear best bot out there, but there's quite a few bots that can take gains off of them here and there. He doesn't have that 100% win rate anymore. Now it's like 93% win rate. Anyways, I digress. Let's do one more match for this video. So we did see Queenbot be taken out by Skevedbot, and next up will be Forky. So back to another Zerg bot, Forky Dog 12, written by Forky. So let's see what information we got on him. It is a Python bot, I should say. No pylons, it's Zerg. And yeah, it was created once and has never been updated since. So, but not a bad rank for what seems to be like, here's a bot, let's see how it does. I'm never going to change it based on what I see on the ladder. And it still made it up to, you know, of 64 bots, it's still made up to number 35, which is pretty awesome. Oh. So I'm guessing this 12 means like his 12th version, and 50 would mean like his 50th version. He may not have known that you can update the same bot on the ladder. He might have just kept creating new bots and putting them on. Do we have any other Forkies? He has only 2 bots. They're both Zerg, so maybe they're different. We'll keep them both in this tournament. But yeah, Forky 12, and then there's a Forky 50 later on. So maybe he was updating. He just was doing it in the form of a new bot. Yes, let's get that loaded in the background here. So up another PVZ. So this one's going to take place on Ice and Chrome. Close that, do this, bring up the production tab, switch scenes, and here we go. Spawning in the top right, we have the red Zerg, but it's not Queenbot this time. It's the challenger. It is Forky Dogs 12. Meanwhile, in the bottom left, the returning champ, the master of the Forgate, it is Skevedbot P. Well, we can't say master of the Forgate, as Scarlet, the pro player of Starcraft 2, who's actually a good programmer in herself, created a by far the best Forgate bot we had on the scene, as it was the first bot that adapted what is now becoming standard as speed mining, where you get your SCVs to prevent it from decelerating before it approaches a mineral patch or approaches the Nexus. And of course, as a pro player, she knew how to perfectly execute the build order for a Forgate, so it was a flawless Forgate build order. However, with that said, even if it's not flawless, Forgate is quite strong, especially against Zerg. You may notice that there's not too many Zergs high on the ladder, and I think probably 2 reasons for that. One of it is that their late game is difficult, because for Zerg late game to be strong, it has to involve spellcasters, which take a lot of decision making and fine micro. You don't have to go to the late game though. Like as a human player, when I play Master Raven, I can't go late game anymore. So what I do is I just keep the mid game going forever. Just put on non-stop pressure and keep my opponent from ever building up his death ball. Macro hatch in order. But the other major issue for Zerg is that it's hard to know when to drone and when to build army, because that requires decision making. And where for human that might actually end up being very simple decision making, any decision making for a bot is very difficult. You know, bots can micro like a god, but the simplest decisions can go over their head at times. Because as a human, you may think a decision is very simple, but you don't realize that there's may actually be like 1,000 different scenarios, and your brain can like pick off which scenario you're in very easily by looking at it. But for a bot, it's really hard to decipher those 1,000 different scenarios. And by 1,000, I mean maybe it could be 5 different scenarios, but even that, you choose the wrong one. Build a bunch of drones and you're about to die, or build a bunch of army, and then you end up way behind economically. Again, all 4 gates going down on within the base of Skevedbot. So I guess the proxy pylon is just for slow warp ins. I guess there was never any intention to build a gateway over here. I thought that was the intent last game, but yeah, it was not, and ends up being a good choice because the Lings did find the pylon, and he needs to get that Zealot into the wall ASAP, or this could be a lot of trouble. Warp gate is completing, but I assume he's going to warp in Stalkers, which isn't the best versus Zerglings if the Zerglings get surround. He's got to use that Guardian Shield. No Guardian. Okay, no, actually Guardian Shield does nothing versus Zerglings. I take it back. And yikes. Well, I can see why this bot of Forky's did well despite not having any updates. Because if you just make a bunch of Lings and slam them into your opponent's face, that's going to work versus a lot of builds unless they're got a defensive mindset or a solid defensive setup. Rebuilding those gateways, which means he's not able to afford more Stalkers. Actually building a 5th gateway as well. So with full mineral saturation and a queen injecting a hatchery, the hatchery is not able to spend all its money on Zerglings. So you do need a second hatch. Probably makes sense just to throw to your natural, because it's not like you have to worry about defending anyways when you're going mass Zergling. You got more than enough defense. So why not give yourself the option to transition or to even transfer workers at some point. Obviously he's not coded into this bot, but maybe you end up in like a really close match where sending all your Zerglings is like on the cusp of killing your opponent, and then you run out of minerals in your main base. It would be kind of be nice to, like, as you're running out of minerals, to be able to transfer them to your natural, even if there's nothing built in to your bot to like transition out of a Ling all in. At least you can keep the mining going. Yeah, but solid victory. If the Zealot were in the wall, perhaps it would have been okay. I don't know, because he probably would have gotten his warp in of 4 Stalkers before the Zealot died, and then I guess if the Stalkers were smushed into the wall, it would possibly hold. But I'm guessing the Stalkers would probably kite backwards from the Zerglings. I don't know. I think this build of Zerglings just beats a 4 gate straight up. You gotta hold the wall somehow, otherwise they're going to get overrun. So congratulations to Forky Dog 12. If we take a look back at the list here, we do see that Forky Dog 50 is 2 up, so there's a chance of a Forky Dog team kill at some point. But before that, we have one of the most entertaining bots we have on the scene, and that is Merkmore's Chaos Bot. He lives up to his name. He does the craziest stuff with Terran, hoping that he doesn't just get overrun by mass Zerglings. When you do crazy stuff, you might get overrun by mass Zerglings. But if not, we're in for a treat in the next video. But we will be calling at the end of this video here. So thank you everyone for tuning in, and I'm out of here. Goodbye.